The Houston Texans have their roster practice squad included, but I got some questions about this team that could linger all season long based on the way they constructed and put together this initial 2024 roster. Let's start with this question. They have enough at the cornerback position. I love what Derek Stingley's potential is this season. If he plays all season long, he's going to be an all pro. And I'm not talking about a second team all pro. He's going to be a first team all pro if he stays healthy and plays all season long. Big if, obviously, with the injury history. And Kamari Lassiter, the rookie that the Texans drafted in the second round in this year's draft, and he looked fantastic in OTAs, minicamp, and in training camp. But he's a rookie. He's going to have some growing pains here or there. And obviously, if there's any sort of injury to either one of those guys, you start to dig into this depth at the cornerback spot. The depth that we're talking about, it's not great. Jeff Okudah, who missed a lot of training camp with an injury. Miles Bryant, who can play a little inside, can't really play outside, can help you out as a depth piece on at the safety spot. And then Chris Boyd, who is a special teams ace and not here to be on the team as a cornerback replacement should you need to put him on the field. It gets very tenuous very quick at the cornerback spot after Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. And I don't know, outside of some really impressive trade the Texans could make in the middle of the season, if you can really solve this to an extent where you're comfortable about the cornerback spot during the season. This may be what you've got. You may just have to hope and pray that Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter take care of their business and stay healthy for most of the season, and then you can get by with the depth that you currently have on this roster. Look, Okudah didn't play a lot in training camp. The little bit that he did play, he was okay. There's something there. There's a little bit there, but not enough that I feel good about him filling in for Stingley, who's got that injury history, or spelling Kamari Lassiter. If Lassiter has a couple of rookie moments in a row, it could get dicey at cornerback for this Texans team, and I don't know that they can solve it. This could be a season-long thing that we think about with this cornerback room. My second question is, there's a bunch of players, if you've seen the movie Office Space, you'll recognize this line. What is it you do here? Really, there's a lot of players on this team that I just simply ask, what is it you do here? Look, Joe Mixon is a bell cow back. The backup running backs in Cincinnati combined for 61 carries last year. If Mixon's healthy, what is it you do here? Damian Pierce and Cam Akers and Dare Agumbawale and British Brooks. I might have the answer for British Brooks. Maybe he's the fullback for this team. But Damian Pierce, are you going to help out on special teams? How many special teams roles can you play? The same question goes for Cam Akers. Dare Agumbawale, maybe he's going to be a little third down running back, catch the ball out of the backfield a couple of times to spell Mixon when he needs a breather and needs a break. But what is it you do here? Rest of the running back room that's not Joe Mixon. And there's a couple of wide receivers that fall into that category as well. Robert Woods, is he going to be a return man for this team on kickoffs, on punt return? Is he going to be the punt returner over Tank Dell? What is it Robert Woods does for this team? Because if Stefon Diggs and Nico Collins and Tank Dell are all healthy, you may not need that fourth, fifth, or sixth, or seventh wide receiver very much. So when I ask that question about Robert Woods, it applies to Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie as well. And it may just be as simple as when a guy needs a breather, when a guy needs a break, you're in there. Hey, it's third down. Tank Dell needs a breather. Robert Woods, go out there, run that route from the slot and make something happen, and just give CJ Stroud an option to hit you on that first down. Like, it may just be as simple as that for those wide receivers, but those wide receivers I mentioned, the backup running backs, what is it you do here for this Texans team? We're going to have to figure that out over the course of the season. A moment here for my friends at PrizePicks, the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy. You're just predicting more or less on given stats, putting them together in an entry, and that's how you win when you get all those correct. And they even have the flex entry. We don't have to get all of them correct, and you can still win. How fantastic is that? Almost as fantastic as the offer that you see on the screen right now. Play your first 5, get $50 when you use my code STOOTS, STOOTS. That's STOOTS, STOOTS, at the link in the description down below. And take advantage right now at PrizePicks of these fantastic Caleb Williams as well as Jalen Milroe squares. You add those to your entry. I mean, more than point 0.5 passing yards for Jalen Milroe, more than point 0.5 passing yards for Caleb Williams. I mean, how easy is that? Put that with your entry. That's going to be a freebie on your way to putting together a win. PrizePicks always has fantastic offers and promotions. Nothing's better than that free 50 when you play your first five and use my code Stoots, STOOTS, at the link in the description down below. PrizePicks, the best, easiest, and most fun way to play daily fantasy. And oh, by the way, you can get in on the season long fantasy as well with the NFL. Get in, head over to prizepicks.com or check out that link in the description down below. Question number 3 is, will the defensive tackles hold up? I like Foley Fatukasi and Mario Edwards as the starting defensive tackles, and Khalil Davis did a great job in training camp playing his way onto this roster. I really liked what he was able to produce and put together for this team in the preseason. And then Tim Settle rounds out that defensive tackle room. Now, there's somewhat of a reinforcement coming down the road with the Nico Autry. Even though he's played a little defensive tackle, he's probably more of a defensive end. So there's a little bit of reinforcement there, but Tim Settle was hurt almost all of the preseason, didn't play much. So what does he bring to the table? We know the Texans like to rotate those guys at defensive tackle. And as good as Mario Edwards has looked, as good as Foley Fatukasi have looked in the preseason, these are two guys that have bounced around to a bunch of different teams in their NFL career. Mario Edwards, nearly a decade in the league. And I know that we've talked about here on the channel how this is the system for him. He's finally got a system that maximizes his talents, and he has looked good. And Foley Fatukasi's got experience with this system, and he has looked good, but these guys were available for a small investment at the defensive tackle spot for a reason. Now, I think a lot of times we've talked about the defensive tackles, thought about how Malik Collins and Sheldon Rankins, an expensive defensive tackle duo last year, did so well, and now you've got new faces and far less investment in there. Hey, if those guys are just there to take care of the business that defensive tackles need to take care of in this defense, that might be enough. And it may not matter if it's Davis and Fatukasi, or Davis and Edwards, or Edwards and Fatukasi, or Settle mixed in there, or Kurt Heinisch when he returns from injured reserve. It may not matter as much exactly who the guys are if they can execute the job that the defensive tackles have to do in this defensive scheme. But I just do wonder, and I do worry if they're going to be able to hold up. And if a few weeks in, we're thinking, man, Azeez Al-Shire sure does have to make a lot of tackles there from linebacker, because the defensive tackles haven't been able to slow down opposing running backs. That is one of those concerns that I have. And my last question about how this roster is set and what exactly they're going to do with this guy is, hey, is Steve here to stay? And that's Steven Sims, the return specialist. And I know he's here as the 7th wide receiver for the team, but if he's out there as a wide receiver, I don't know that that's a good thing for the Texans. But if I consider him the 4th specialist for this team, joining Tommy Townsend, John Weeks, and Kaimi Fairbairn as the other specialists, then I kind of see what exactly Steven Sims is doing. So Steven Sims, if he is the 4th specialist, he's going to help out on punt returns. He's going to help out on kick returns. And he's the guy all season long. Okay, well, then you keep him. You have 7 wide receivers, and you just sort of figure out what to do with those other wide receivers, use them on special teams in other ways, and make it work from that standpoint. But if there starts to be a roster crunch, you've got guys that are going to come back off of injured reserve when they get healthy. You've got a guy coming back from a suspension when that wraps up after 6 games. I just wonder if that 7th wide receiver, that special teams ace, that specialist in the return that Steven Sims is for this team, if that's going to be something that sticks around for this Texans team, or if that roster spot is better served in another way, maybe an additional defensive lineman, an additional linebacker, a cornerback. We just talked about that position as well. So is Steve here to stay? Good question. We'll find out over the course of this season. What questions do you have about this Texans roster that could linger all season long? The Christian Harris question may solve itself in a few weeks. That's not a season-long question, but what questions do you have? Put it in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell your friends about the channel. It's football season. Maybe not all your Texans friends know about this channel. Let them know. They don't want to miss out on this great stuff that you're watching. I say it's great stuff. I hope you think it's great stuff. You know what is great stuff? My friends at PrizePicks, the easiest and best way to play daily fantasy. Don't forget about their fantastic offer. Play your first 5 and get 50 free when you use my code Stoots, STOOTS. That's Stoots, STOOTS. That link is in the description down below. And oh, don't forget about those sweet free squares that they have with Jalen Milroe and Caleb Williams. Play those. We talked about it earlier in the video. Check those out as well. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait till we talk Texans and this season starts again soon.